just like a couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with, I think, Lillian, or I don't even remember who it was, but I said, I'm really craving a seafood boil. And then I said Aldi's, like, the grocery store Aldi's, like not too much longer in the conversation. I get served with a Google ad that's like, Aldi's crawfish boils, $5.99.
Oh, they're listening to you.
But they're not listening to us, supposedly.
So we're moving through our social shift segment of the podcast, the What's the Point podcast, and we're super excited because we have the inimitable PR gal extraordinaire and associate account executive Alyssa Ceballos here with us. Alyssa,
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
How are you?
Just come back from Cancun, where we had a blast at the
Possum in my room.
Bar Louie conference. Possum in the room. That was wild, man. What are the chances that would happen? She said she was up on the counter while she was putting her makeup on. We were getting ready to go to dinner, and she goes, dude, there's a possum in my room. And I was like, what?
Yeah. No rabies, though. That's all that
no
matters.
Rabies. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you came back. No viruses. No rabies.
Only
That's
in
a good
Mexico,
thing.
man.
Doing good.
So now more people know about your possum story.
There you go.
At least the
It's starting
the
to
gist,
trickle
like
out.
Just
That's the
slowly
part
but
of the
surely.
podcast.
The important
that's gonna
person
go.
knows
Pretty
about the
soon
possum
it'll be on the
story.
onion. It'll be on the Onion and all these other places.
That's the part that's going to go viral.
Account
None of the good
possums.
content that
Account
we're doing. It's
executive
just going to be this.
gets attacked by possum.
Hey.
She's
There you
okay. She's
We're
in
alive. We're well.
minor wounds.
Kicking it, yeah.
Just PTSD. That was pretty
A little
much
bit of
the
trauma.
gist of it.
You can't listen to the word possum again, but it's all good.
We hear a lot from clients about saying things like, I want to go viral. But I think the thing we try to help them understand, because a lot of our job is educational, right? Like it's letting the client know, hey, look, that's a cool aspiration and it can happen, but you can't really plan for that. And if it does happen, it's not going to save your business. But going viral does have its benefits.
Definitely.
And it feels great and it adds a boost of morale. But what do you want people to know about that part of putting out social content and why they should have measured expectations when it comes to that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think virality, it like you said, it feels really good. And that's kind of like, in this generation, that's kind of the trend. It's how quickly can you go viral? How much can I put out there that will go viral?
Yeah.
But really, and I think this strongly depends on the business, but for the most part, virality doesn't really matter. It's not really the important go all, because we're living in times where it's a lot more about who you can reach, who your target audience is, and how often can you reach them? What is your messaging? So if you're continuously just focused on going viral, you might be getting a lot of eyes, but those eyes are not the eyes that you need. Of course, this all depends on your goals, your target audience, but really it's about speaking to those individuals. So you could, be a smaller creator, you could be a smaller business and be hitting, 300 eyes, but those 300 eyes might be hitting into conversions. Those are the people you care about. You don't care about the mommy influencer that lives 1,000 miles away in Canada.
Yeah.
You care about the person next door who might buy into your business, who might be that next valuable customer. So
Yeah, a lot of people look down on smaller numbers like that, but I'm like, if you were to put 300 people in a room right now, it would be filled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's no room for 300 people.
Yeah.
But they look down at those views like, oh man, I just got 100 views.
Yeah,
100 people.
That's a
lot.
It's a lot, and I think, and I'm not sure how much we can really talk on this, but you can kind of talk to some of the businesses that we work with. So you think about economic development corporations, their goal is not to go viral.
Right.
Their
Right.
goal is to inform, it's to educate, and they have a solid following. That following is mainly comprised of the people that they want to be those followers.
Right.
It's not the random individuals. Who cares? I mean, I think viral can be great in some specific situations if that's what your business is built on, but most of these businesses, that's not what your goal needs to be. How can you reach? How can you get your message out? Those are the big priorities.
Also, viral's a one-time thing normally.
Right.
It'll happen. You throw a bunch of content out there and maybe one hits. Maybe somehow it just happens to hit, right? But if that's not turning into measurable results for your business other than just a few likes, I mean, you want people that are engaged. That's really what you want, is people that are engaged with you, getting in the comments, threads, talking about it a little bit. If and shares are great because ultimately that cross-pollination can get you more eyeballs.
Definitely.
But that's not that's probably not gonna happen for you on a consistent basis.
Right.
You may catch fire on one or two things, but it's not something you should have aspiration for every single time out.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Plus,
not.
Right.
you're gonna pull your hair out trying to figure out like
How to get viral.
There is no way to plan for it. It just happens.
Yeah, one of the old clients we had, we were doing all this content, like live streaming, all these things, and we had pretty decent numbers.
Yeah.
But then this is kind of a political client we had, and we just did a last minute. It was Super Tuesday last year, and just, hey, let's just put a quick little graphic on, go vote today. And that thing went viral.
Of course.
Like, and this is
when
like
you least expect it to.
it was like the last thing you'd ever expect to go viral. It got over 1 million views, and it was just a quick little graphic.
Yeah.
No images, just text. Like go out and
least
vote.
amount of effort. It's kind of like
amount of effort.
It's kind of like when you put 3 logos in front of somebody and you spend all the time on the first one, and the third one you did is just the one you just threw together real quick to have a third option. That's the one they picked.
That's the one.
And you're like, oh, I hated this one the most out of the 3. But I think it's so important to think about that, because I'll tell you, I would rather have those 300 people regularly engaged on a consistent basis than to watch something hit really heavily and then have a complete drop off after that.
Get those
you have
one-offs.
something that gets 1 million views, and then the next thing you do has 400.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like,
But in the case of this, so actually go out and vote, you do want to get as many people.
Right.
As
It depends on your goals.
the goals. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of those people, because this was in a race in California, so I'm sure a lot of those people weren't even in California. I mean,
right.
This is just something that's.
I think that's where you have to tie in, like, who the client is, what is their brand. Like, if they're political and their goal right now is, I need this amount of votes, that's when you really need to start integrating, how can I go viral on something like this? But for the most part, that's just not who we're targeting.
But also, had we tried to go viral with that, it would
have been screwed, because that's just how it works.
We would have put way too much effort and time into that. Like,
socials know. They're like, they took 20 minutes on this, creating this caption, like, we're going to throw it off. Yeah.
Sure. So it kind of goes out to both other people that may be working with clients to tell them that that's something they have aspirations to do, is to go viral, is to we need to focus on virality. We need to make sure this is hitting as many people as possible. And while it's a lofty, great expectation, you can say, I think there's a way that you have to convey measured expectations to your client to say, hey, that's something that can happen. A lot of, again, it goes back to the educational component, right? Like our job is educating people on how that happens, when it could potentially happen, but there's no way to let them know, there's no real way to plan for that.
Right,
it's either going to happen or it's not.
Right.
But again, the consistency is probably, we talked to Susan about consistency and perseverance. Being consistent in the way that you approach things and how often you put those kinds of things out there,
absolutely,
maybe something hits, maybe it doesn't. But again, at least you're going to have that regular engagement that probably is more important over the long haul than just something happening real quick one time, unless it's a scenario like, hey, we're just trying to hit as many eyeballs as we can and get people to share it for this particular instance, then it works, then it's great.
It's great.
But for just your average everyday stuff where you're just kind of tossing things out there, you want the more consistent engagement. Absolutely. I would rather have somebody come in and like and engage with and comment on every one of my posts or share it than it just be one random piece. You know what I mean? This has been great. So what are some other pieces that we can touch on in terms of like, when it comes to virality, like, okay, let me ask you this. What's the craziest request that you've gotten from somebody in terms of like content? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but have you got any kind of request from anybody, be it, and it could be something internal too, like if somebody came to you internally, not trying to out anybody here, but if somebody, you get something from internally where somebody came to you and said, oh my God, the client just asked me for this. What are we going to do? Yeah. Because those things pop up, right? Those things happen. You don't have to say any client names or anything like that. No. Things do happen.
This actually happened a couple years ago. I had somebody come to me and say, okay, we're gonna do like a paid type of advertisement, but we want it to look really organic. And we need it to hit 10,000 brides in the Dallas Metroplex. And I just was like,
10,000 brides?
How very, very specific, right? Yeah. And I feel like this kind of goes out of viral, but we were doing all the things. We were trying to hit the trending audio. We were doing, at that time, all the different hashtags. Now we kind of know that really doesn't matter. Dead hashtags, meta. No, but we were doing all these different things to try to hit this one goal, and it was just near impossible because you're kind of thinking through 10,000 brides. Like, do we know how many people are getting married right now and how we're going to... So definitely able to target that audience, but it was so much more about how many people we can reach, and the focus was not how many people can we reach that are actually going to come over and use our services. That was the end result, and that was, I think, the biggest hurdle was in their eyes. They were, I just want to get this in front of 10,000 brides. And I was like, do you want to get it in front of 10,000 brides or 100 brides who might come to our company?
And also, where did the 10,000 come from?
Yeah,
I think
it was just a thrown in number.
Yeah,
and
totally that's what I feel happens a lot when it comes to these
requests. That's where it goes back to your strategy, like your content strategy. You have to have rails to ride on. You can't just. I mean, you could deviate from it, but that doesn't guarantee anything.
There were
it's
rails, man. It was 10,000.
Yeah.
Let me reiterate. 10,000 brides in the Dallas area.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know the numbers, and I'm not going to crunch them, but how many people are in Dallas that are brides right now?
How do you even take that back to your team and be like, well, guys, here's what we're doing, right?
And by the way, this was off one post. This was
of course.
Yeah,
of course.
We were putting a little bit of money behind it, so there was that expectation. And I was just like, we really need to focus on who is going to be able to afford this right now.
Yeah.
Who is in their time in their lives and their wedding and bridal journey who would actually turn over to these services. It was just, that was a mess.
That's crazy, man. And that happens more often than you might think, where people come at you with those kinds of aspirations without any kind of like, what's the barometer for any of this? Like, what data did you gather to let you know that this is what you need to try to do?
There's a lot of data out there that's like, okay, you need to post this many amount of times this week, and you need to, and I'm like, ooh.
Well, yeah,
that's a great strategy.
Yeah, no, we actually talked about that earlier. It's like, I mean, it's a good thing that we're talking about this again. There's a lot of these rules like, post on these days at these times and all these. Yeah. There's all these crazy rules, and I think I don't know if it's meant to like overwhelm people so you can buy into their service. I don't really know what it is behind there, but I mean, at the end of the day, like people are on their phones all day long.
Yeah.
And I don't think it matters what time you post, any of those things.
Right.
I think it's all just about the content. Like if it's great stuff, if it's, it's going to work out for you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Then that's super generic too. All these things that are saying post at this time on this day here.
Yeah.
You're not taking into consideration location.
Right.
Yeah.
And the worst part, you're not considering the target audience. You're trying to hit CEOs. Do you really think the best time is going to be at 9:30 a.m. to be posting?
Yeah.
I hope not, because that CEO is not going to be on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. LinkedIn.
I think it'd probably be more like early in the morning when they're having their coffee.
Right, right before.
When they're scrolling through, just kind of seeing what's going
on. A
lot
of CEOs wake up like at 4 in the morning.
Exactly.
If they're on their treadmill or something like that, that's probably when they're doing it. I've gotten great results either in the evenings, like at 6:30, like people after dinner or people are getting off work, or first thing in the morning when people grab their phones when they wake up.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even played around with lunch.
Sometimes you can get some, but then again, it's a crapshoot even then. It's kind of like email. If they tell you, you should send on these days at these times, but there's no guarantee for any of that. Part of me feels like, and this is the cynical part of me that's been in the business for a long time, is that it's just shit for people to write about so they have something to do with their jobs. It's like, we need some content pieces around this.
Okay,
ChatGPT, go find me 5 rules I need to follow for social and let me know the times that are best for me to post.
It's
it's a crapshoot, and we're here to tell you guys we're pulling back the veil on some of this shit. Like that's one of the things we're going to do. We're going to get into it, man, and we're going to let y'all know. Like, look, there's no gatekeeping, right? Gatekeeping is whack. No hashtag anymore, but gatekeeping is whack. So we're here to kind of like pull back the curtain on all this stuff and let you guys know that a lot of the stuff that you read into, it's horse shit.
Yeah.
It's absolute horse shit. And we'll be the ones to tell you, like, we'll even tell you, it's like, hey, don't take our word for it. Just go do the diligence yourself and look at what people are doing. It's like, there's no guarantee of anything.
Right.
It kind of, again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. It kind of feels like the Wild Wild West a little bit.
Yeah.
But you got to try some shit. That's the thing. You got to try things. You got to be willing to test. There's no guarantee of anything. There's no guarantee you're going to get any kind of engagement. You're going to have to try some shit, and you're going to have to give yourself room to try some shit.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway is like, there is no guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
Like people want guarantees, and there just isn't. You know,
it's just the world we live in, man.
I try to be very upfront with people and just say, hey, look, I'm going to put it in the best place possible, but this, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do my
blessing.
best.
Yeah.
But a lot of that really does fall onto the content
The
itself,
content
not
itself,
the time
yeah.
you're posting it and
Yeah.
the, you know.
A question that it kind of pertains to this. It's not really in the space of virality, but what do you think about like we were talking about Brooke's recent video where she's talking about shadow bans on IG, right? She did a great job.
Cool.
Shout out to Brooke.
Yeah.
What do you think about when people post content to social, the stuff that looks really not as polished, like that you can tell it was shot with a phone? Like nowadays it's hard to tell versus like the way we have things set up in here that's highly produced.
Yeah.
What do you think about that in terms of like breeding familiarity? Do you think people are just used to seeing that stuff now and they're okay with it? Do they give a shit? What do they want to see? Because we were talking about quality of content. Like we said, okay, well, there's kind of the kitschy reels type stuff, you know, with the captions, just real quick. That isn't maybe heavily as produced. What have you found with what, and I guess it's just going to boil back down to business and what kind of followers you have.
Yeah,
what do you found works best, or what do you think, or what are your ideas around that?
So in my personal opinion, I think that has so much to do on, like you said, the business itself. Like who is your audience and what are they looking for? I think people are really exhausted and tired of very highly produced content. And that's just how we live in right now. People's attention spans are the smallest they have ever been. Mm-hmm. If you can't capture their attention in the first, I think the crazy number right now is like 2 seconds.
Yeah. 3 seconds.
When they first see that thumbnail, then you're not doing anything. And this is a big Raul thing. I feel like he's really good at kind of talking on this, but I think it really, really depends on your brand, your messaging, how do you hold yourself, and are you comfortable sharing quick content? And I'm not talking about crap content. That I think there's a fine line in between. Is it crappy or is it quick and just to the point? Because the second you start to blur those lines and you start jeopardizing the quality of the content, that you need to put some time and some effort into these.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like it really sucks because doing like video editing as an example. Back in the day, you would do about a minute and a half video. That was like a good
standard,
standard, right? But it was high quality, right? Now we have reels, and people are like, oh, they got to be under a minute and a half. But they're called reels, and it's like now you got to do this. And at the end of the day, it's like you're still kind of doing the same amount of work.
You are,
but they want to charge less money, and I think the reason why is because when they see these things on social media, it's like a skateboarder. When they're skating and they're doing all these tricks, they make it look really easy.
Yeah, and quick.
But it's really they put a lot of time into
sometimes
that.
More
and they
time.
Just make it look.
Yeah, a lot of times more time because you're taking something that could be long form and then you're trying to get the highlights out of it and then reproducing it to make it look even more edgier and more witty and easier to get people's attention. That is really challenging.
Yeah, it's challenging. It takes time, even to kind of think of the ideas. You know what I mean? But I think it's like they see it all day long and they think, oh, this is easy. This is going to be quick.
Go try it.
In reality, it's like,
you don't see that. Yeah, you really don't see that. And that's one of this one of the reasons I want to dive into this is not just to get your thoughts around, Alyssa, but to let people know, hey, there's a lot of thought that goes into this stuff.
Yeah.
Even the stuff, it's almost like a reality show, right? Like it's loosely scripted, but there's a lot of production that goes into it. Like people don't realize, like watching like The Real World or like even The Bachelor or something like that, like these reality shows that we all know and love. There is a ton of work that goes on behind the scenes to prep for that stuff. And while they make it look unproduced, it's actually all produced.
It's highly
Every
produced.
bit of it is completely produced. So there is a ton of diligence and work that goes in up front to make those things happen, to make them appear a certain way. And that's just because it looks one way and your perception is going to be your reality. You're going to look at it and go, oh, that looks like they just kind of took it and shot it with the phone. There was a ton of planning. Like there were weeks of planning that went into that shit. So we just want everybody to know there's nothing easy about any of this stuff.
No, I think for us too, because we work in marketing, like we get to see that. So we understand all these behind the scenes of how hard, or not even how hard for us, but how much work and effort goes into these things. Whereas from organically, from any other perspective, you look at it and you're like, oh, that whatever, like they just made that quickly. You're so right about the reality shows.
You look at the thumbnails too, like on YouTube, you're scrolling and you see a million thumbnails a day. But I think I just saw the other day that Mr. Beast, like I think he pays like $100,000 for his thumbnails.
Really?
And I don't remember if it was like I should probably check that.
$100,000 for his thumbnails?
Just for the design of his thumbnails.
For somebody to design it?
He's constantly updating his thumbnails in the same video.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, repositioning like
kind of like the way Netflix and HBO Max changed the cover art from stuff, and it makes it look like a different film, so you can get
or even like older books. You know, you go to Barnes and Noble and you'll see they do a new design on the same book, on just the book cover, and it'll grab attention.
I feel like there's probably a whole episode just about stuff like that, about those kind of strategies. The cool thing is like and part of this is to let you guys know that viewers and listeners, you guys out there, thanks for tapping in with us, is to help educate you and help you understand that not only is there a lot of thought that goes into this, but you've seen shitty content. Mm-hmm. You know what shitty content looks like. Somebody doesn't know how to frame a shot or compose a shot properly. Yeah. Somebody doesn't know how to light something. Like, we're sitting here, we don't have to sell you anything because we're showing you that we know how to do it. Yeah. And that there is a differentiation between just your average Joe Blow from down the street who's just filming stuff with their iPhone 12 versus somebody who knows how to do this stuff and puts a lot of thought into it. And even on the stuff that they need to look a little bit less polished, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Probably more work to make it look more organic.
So it's actually
because we have to dial it down to make it look not so polished.
Right.
So Mr. Beast, he spends about 10,000 a thumbnail.
A single thumbnail?
I need to find out how I can become a designer for Mr. Beast.
I know, right?
The thumbnails retire.
I know. Well, thumbnails
and then I can just come do this podcast with you guys, and that'll be all.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, thumbnails will actually make or break your content on YouTube.
What they say, 70% users with their mouth screenshots or thumbnails with their mouth open get 70% more clicks than your average stuff. That's why everybody's going,
yeah.
Oh my God, cheese pull.
Hey, let's do the worst one is
that one.
I hate that one.
The one where they're like this.
Secret. Yeah.
And it's the thumbnail name.
Oh my God! What about the ones where somebody's just got their hand out and you can so tell that something was just placed there digitally and it doesn't even say like sitting on their hand, right?
That's a funny thing about thumbnails. They're always really cheesy.
They're all the super cheesy.
It makes you think about how do we get people's attraction. It's like we're going. Is it really these highly produced, very nice polished imagery, or is it this like cheesy, almost CapCut looking?
But like, how many people have the same exact thumbnail? The whole like.
I get so tired
when everybody. I actually really hate that.
I know exactly what you look at because that emoji that I'm like, oh, I understand what goes onto your YouTube feed just by saying that.
It's so funny. But I actually found a whole article around this where they were talking about how it taps into people's curiosity about, well, why do they look that way? What is it that they know that I don't know and people are afraid to miss out. They're like, this is something I need to probably know. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And it works, man. It just taps into some human, it's a very psychological approach, man. And people don't realize that because again, it's like marketing. You know, when you see something that you like, it's because it's been tailored to you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's been tailored to you. The diligence was done up front. The market research was done up front. We know, and we're guilty. We know exactly what you're going to respond to, and that's why we do this. That's why
crazy.
that's why we do what we do, right? Because we know how to do it. And I look at it, and I can't take anything at face value because when I see that stuff, I'm like,
they got me. Well, it's so funny because it's like you have kind of like the more like the bad version of it where it's like, oh my gosh, they know everything about me. And then there's the like, I'm so glad they do because I wouldn't want to be getting marketed to things I don't want or need.
We live in a highly curated world.
Yeah, and this is like a whole other different topic, but that's actually why I used to love even YouTube ads before I went premium because I hate ads in general.
You went premium.
I did.
Okay. I went premium too.
But
you're missing out.
Okay.
Go premium.
Hey, it's worth it. It's really awesome. But even when I did see the ads, they were tailored towards me, so I didn't mind as much because it was like things I actually liked. You know? So
it's like, this ad is not horrible.
Yeah.
Skip, but it's not that bad.
right. Not interested. It's irrelevant. I do that to a lot of stuff, man. I end up like turning ads off, like on IG, like stuff that I just don't want to get served with. It's like, so I'm like, why did it serve me with this? What did I look at or what did I like?
I get so upset.
I'm like, I just want cat videos.
Yeah.
No, I get so mad when I'm marketed to poorly because I'm like,
I know.
Who's
this? Not doing their job?
Yeah,
who do I need to go
right? Because we know what it looks like behind the scenes, so we're kind of like, oh, they're not doing their job well.
No, but you know the freaky thing about it, the freakiest thing is whenever you're having a conversation.
Oh yeah.
And you haven't looked at this stuff up. You're just like, I just looked up the Mr. Beast thing and that was whatever. But like, let's just say we just talked about it, and then I go onto YouTube
Yeah.
and I see Mr.
Yeah.
Beast pays like $10,000.
Yeah.
Like you'll see these things pull up on ads or whatever. That to me is really creepy. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like
Hey,
they're
you know what
obviously
sounds good? A
listening.
burger. Then Burger King. You
Yeah.
rule. It's
Yeah.
like, these mother.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like a couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with, I think, Lillian, or I don't even remember who it was, but I said, I'm really craving a seafood boil. And then I said Aldi's, like, the grocery
Yeah.
store Aldi's, like not too much longer in the conversation. I get served with a Google ad that's like, Aldi's crawfish
Yeah.
boils, $5.99.
They're listening to you.
But
Yeah,
they're not listening to us, supposedly.
Okay, that's what they all say.
It's just so interesting, man.
That's just kinda creepy,
the world
though.
we live in, and how we're being marketed to nowadays. But the cool thing is that we were talking to Jay about this. Like, as agencies, we no longer dictate to customers; they dictate to us. They dictate to us what they want to see, and it allows us to serve them better. To be honest with you, like
Yeah.
it allows us better insights to be able to give them the stuff they really want, so that we can do our jobs well and they can get what they want.
Yeah.
So it's to your point, like as a consumer, when you're marketed too badly, it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
But when you're marketed too well, you're like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
At least this is stuff that I want to see, and you can curate your world the way you want it. And that's why it is a beautiful time to be alive. But also, you could be, if you're not careful, you could be missing out on other stuff that could be really great too. So there's that
absolutely.
as well. But I think that this is this has been amazing. And Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on, hanging out with us, and tapping
Thank
in and like giving us
you.
your insights. It's the first, but it won't be the last.
Okay,
We're gonna have
thank
you back
you.
on for sure. And as we move through, the growing the podcast and
Yeah.
building out this audience,
I'm
and everything.
excited.
So it'll be fun. Yeah,
This
it's
is
a blast.
awesome. Always
This-
a great
this-
time with you guys.
This could just be the podcast, right?
Right here,
Right?
just the three of us.
Like,
Yeah, it's incredible.
sorry guys,
Yeah,
quitting my job and
we
becoming
had-
podcaster.
We had Shelby on, man, and she was awesome. And we talked to Jay about a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just been great.
I bet
man.
Jay
It's
was
been-
fun
Jay
conversation.
was fun. Yeah,
Jay was
he's
fun.
He's a little bit more reserved whenever I think he was monitoring himself, because
Yeah.
if you're just shooting the shit with him, he's a very, he's pretty loose.
I was gonna say there's gonna be a lot of bleep.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. Yeah.
Wording of the mouth and that kind of thing.
The whole
Yeah,
time
so-
I was like, can we say this? Can we do this?
You know what? We can do anything, man. That's what people are
Yeah.
tuning in for, is to hear us shoot the shit about all this stuff, man. Because it's fun to talk about. So,
Oh yeah, it is.
yeah. But thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being
It was
here.
fun.
Nice.
Always.
Awesome. So again, jumping into the social shift segment, this is where we talk
Yes.
about hot topics in the business, whether it's the marketing industry or just as a whole, just
Yeah.
kind of the world we live in, where we give our lean and our opinions on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
What is something that most business owners still don't get about marketing?
I think a lot of business owners, like, a lot of people are just very scared. They're
Yeah.
very risky, and I think like good marketing is like kind of shocking.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or it's some type of a jolt to the system. And I think like a lot of business owners still don't get that. Like they're just very scared and very self-aware for their business, and sometimes you just gotta let
Yeah.
go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, some of the best commercials are kind of outrageous. Some of the best content on social
Yeah.
media is just kind of outrageous. You know what I mean? And I just kind of get surprised at the amount of people who sometimes will even say that they want something like that, but then when it really comes down to it, they just truly kind of miss out on that.
Yeah, they'll fall back on what they know, or they'll do something vanilla for fear of. We talked to Jay in a previous episode about a lot about taking chances. Sometimes you have to take chances. You know what I mean? And I think that the calculated risk is a thing, obviously, but the other thing too, Raul, is I think that what I've found is most people think that may not understand marketing. Even if you have a seasoned CMO, there's nothing happens overnight. There's
Right.
no silver bullet. There's no one shot thing
Yeah.
that's going to fix whatever challenges your business has. The only thing that you can do is be smart, strategic, and consistent. Consistency is so important in this space, man. And actually, we're going to get into that here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about some content stuff. But I think from a marketing perspective, you have to be willing to try some things
Yes.
to find out what's going to hit. And that's the beautiful thing about also the space we live in, which is a digitally run space. It's no longer, oh my gosh, we have to come up with this campaign and it's all going to be printed. And once it's printed, it's out there.
Right.
We can try some things out. And
Yeah.
we talk a lot about testing. I'm a huge proponent of testing, and I think you always should test to find out what's going to work. And you got to give yourself space to do that.
Right.
And even if you're paying your shop to do the work to make those things happen, to build out content, to put it out there into the space, to monitor it, to find out what it's going to do, to optimize. Those things are not a waste of money, because not everything is going to be tied to your ROI. It will be in some way. It will be tied to your bottom line in some way. But a lot of it's like testing and brand building. Yeah. That's a huge part of business that people don't want to. Not everything has to move the needle right off the bat, and that's what some business owners don't understand.
Yeah, and I think it's like the worst part, that could happen. Yeah, is what they view as the worst is you put something out there and it doesn't do well. Right. But for me, it's now we know. Now we learn from this. Now we know not what to do, and so what comes from that is even greater. Yeah. And so I think it's often viewed as the worst thing that can happen, or it was a fail, and I almost believe nothing is a failure. The only one that fails is if you do something like that and you don't learn out of it, and you do the same bad thing over and over. But other than that, I mean, you can learn from it.
Well, didn't you say in our conversation with Susan, you said you either win or you learn?
Or you learn, yeah.
Like Thomas Edison, one of my favorite quotes is, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways not to do something.
Yeah, exactly.
So every time, and I'm very much a proponent of wherever your feet are at any given time is where you're supposed to be, unless you just manage to get yourself into a really hairy situation or sticky situation. But I think there's still something to be learned from it in every instance. So nothing's ever really a loss. It's just, okay, here's how I can apply that to the next thing that we do. And that's what business owners have to understand is no marketing company, no agency is going to be, we work with the most clever people on the planet. We have a lot of smart people at this agency. But I think that there's no quick fix to anything, man. It takes time. It takes time to test. It takes time to know. And you can have great targeting, but you got to give things time to work out, right? So understand, have a little bit of patience. And it's hard I'm trying to think about it from a CMO's perspective. When you're getting heat from the COO or the CEO and the COO, and it's like, they're like, you got to make some things, the CFO, you got to make some things happen. Right. And you're like, okay, let me get this together. But as long as you're making forward movement and you're doing things that can potentially move the needle that you can report on and help, a lot of that's just expectation management, man. And that's something that we really try to do here is we try to let people know right off the bat, hey, listen, there's no quick fix. But we're going to do great stuff, and we're going to understand your business, and we're going to tailor what we put out there to your audience, and then let them come to us. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, like, understand that, like, not every business is the same. So what works well for some businesses, even though it's a tested and, really good proof of concept, it may not work for your business. Yeah. And so, but you don't know that until you try it. And you try it consistently, because a lot of times people get very disappointed in the immediate results. And sometimes these things, they really do just take time. And I think a lot of companies think, business owners think like, well, it didn't work, or hey, let's move on. But or hey, you're just trying to buy more time. But really, a lot of this stuff, it does take time. Like building audiences, building these things, it just takes, it does sometimes take a lot of time.
I think that's such an interesting point, man. And I think in that same breath, if I could piggyback off of you a little bit, I think that people need to not be so quick to pivot away from something that doesn't work. Yeah. Like if you've got a strategy, that's where your strategy comes into play, your content strategy. And we're going to talk about this in a few minutes too. When you have a content strategy and you've done the upfront diligence and you've planned and you know for certain that these things will eventually work, you have to have patience. You have to be okay with it taking time to pan out. Don't throw something out there and then when it doesn't get the immediate microwave results that you expect. I think it's a product of the society we live in too. You know, prime shipping. I want everything now, not now, but right now. I need you to deliver it into my hand, and I need to have it in this moment. Right. Delayed gratification has become a thing of the past, man, because everybody expects quick results. They do. Nothing is overnight, man. Nobody that became a star or had success, they were putting in work in the background, man. It never happened in one fell swoop.
No, I mean you can compare it to you see what Amazon is now, right? But a lot of people rarely see that video of, Jeff Bezos in his, I don't know if it's a garage or his room.
When they were just a book company.
It was a little book company. It was just him doing everything. Like people discount all of that, and they just see Amazon what it is, and they want that now. Yeah. And so that's a huge problem.
That took years. I mean, Amazon didn't become what it was until they were probably 15 years in before they ever became the one that we know today.
Well, and it's also like you said too, they started out as, just selling books. So it's like, imagine you could see that as a huge loss. Well, we just tried selling books and it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Or you could see it as like, that's just how it started, and they just kept evolving into what it is now.
Everything springboards you into something else. I always looked at it as, I think that part of that age of who Amazon was just a stepping stone, right? So you have to be okay with things taking time to reach a point of return and success. And it just, that consistency, and Susan talked a lot about it, man. Just being consistent is one of the most important things. Consistency and perseverance are two of the most important things in this business. When you're marketing your business, especially in a saturated marketplace, you got to give things time to take hold.
Yeah, you do.
And if you're too quick to pivot away from it, you're not giving it a chance to work for you. Yeah.
Especially when it comes to social media, it's like, it's free. It can be free.
Yeah.
So because it's free, it's probably going to be the odds are not going to be for you. Yeah. So you really do have to be in it for a while and invest a lot of time in it. You know?
So this is actually a great segue. When we talk about consistency, right? And being consistent, having a good cadence for how you're putting things out into the world. Gone are the days of putting a campaign out and then waiting 6 months to do another one.
Right.
It has to be ongoing. You have to know how to launch and how do I give this thing legs? How does it not get sucked into the ether and people forget about it? Because the reality is people look at something and they scroll past it on their feed and they forget about it 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
You got to stay in front of people. Content is still king. Why is that? Why is content still the way to go? Like even in the advertising world where big campaigns have been notoriously the thing all the way from the David Ogilvy Mad Men era to now. Mm-hmm. But it's shifting. Because of how media is being put into the world, why is it that content and consistent content is still king?
Yeah, it is because, you brought up a really good point. People are scrolling through a feed, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't stop them, they call it like stopping the scroll. If you can't stop people from, they're being bombarded with just
all the time, 100%.
So you could have a really good brand, right? You could have, any brand you can think of, right? It's going to show up on your screen like pretty small, right? So the only thing that people are really judging you by is the content. It's got to be something good.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, like, right now, content is king. This is why smaller influencers can compete. They can get just as much or more views than big companies.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it's really the playing field has just been leveled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what the only factor is content. Mm-hmm. Like if it's good, there's so many rules like, like you got to post at this time on this date, or you got to do all these things, right? And those things, they can be true. But in all honesty, if you put something out at midnight, people are still on their phones.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, and it will spread. These things can go viral. These things, they can get a ton of views. And it's really just about the type of content you're putting out. And so I think a lot of people fall really short on that because they're looking for, easier ways. They're looking for, we're going to get into this a little bit later, looking for quantity as well. Like, let's put a lot out. So how do you put out quality content when you put a lot out?
Yeah.
But I do feel that it's definitely the quality of it that is going to really catch people's attention. Mm-hmm. And really, I talk about social media, but this can go for anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This can be on anything.
Sure.
You have to stop people in their tracks. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that, it's not with your logo or anything else. It's going to be with the content itself. People don't care about it until you give them a reason to care about it.
Right.
So that's why I believe that content is king.
Yeah. And that consistency and knowing, and again, we talked before about knowing how to feed the algorithm and make sure that you're putting stuff out that's getting in front of new eyeballs, and you can start to make the algo work for you instead of against you. Because if you're not putting out content consistently, they're not going to prioritize your stuff.
Right.
They're going to put out what's feeding their channel.
Yeah.
So Instagram is going to put things in front of people that are new, that are getting that's getting traction, where they see growth. Because it benefits them ultimately. Yeah. I know a lot of people that say, I'm taking all my stuff off of social media because they're benefiting from my content. It's like, well, but so are you.
Yeah.
Don't think about it so in such one-sided fashion. Mm-hmm. I don't know any brands that do that, but I've had a lot of artist friends who say they're going to strip all their stuff down from, like, their musicians. Like, I'm taking it all off streamers and I don't agree with this. And it's like, yeah, but if you can't beat them, join them, right? Like
Right.
this is the world we live in. You're going to have to understand how to make it work for yourself and put things out there. You can still make things that you care about. You don't have to be a mindless zombie with your content. Like you said, you still want to do quality, but I feel like once you get the quality part down and you've got that sort of templated approach to how you're going to do things, like if you've got, it even goes back to like how we take the time to set up the studio.
Right.
The way we have it set up, once we got that part down, we're like, okay, we know it's going to look great.
Right.
It's going to be good quality. Now let's focus on the content part
Now
of
we
it.
got to do the content.
And then we kick it out that way. So it's really, we approach it no differently than the way we're telling you that you should approach it right now.
Yeah. Because quality is like half the battle.
It is.
Right? Like
It
these
really
mics sound
is.
amazing. But if what you're speaking about, the content you produce with these cameras is bad and it's boring.
Exactly.
The internet will let you know right away.
I was watching Cam Mackey, who's a filmmaker on YouTube content creator, and reviews cameras and gear and all that kind of stuff. And he's a really great filmmaker and photographer. And he said, you can go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on gear, but it's not going to make you a better filmmaker.
Yeah.
Practicing the foundational stuff, the basics, getting those things down, understanding how to light a situation, how to set up the camera, how to look for leading lines, how to compose the shot, watching videos about cinematographers. That's how you become better.
Yeah.
You immerse yourself in it and you learn how to do the things that are going to make you better by default. But just thinking that you're going to grab a camera, and these Sony ZV-1s are fantastic cameras, or the 10s, but it's like, but if we don't know how to make the space work and compose it the right way, then it's going to look like crap. I mean, it may look good in 24 or 30 FPS or whatever, but it's, there are people can just differentiate quality from somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's important to immerse yourself and learn this stuff. And that's part of why we're here too, is we want to help educate people, because we see it as a moral obligation to bring up the next group of leaders and creators in the space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we just did a video, a reel, and it's all about people thinking that their posts have been shadow banned on Instagram. Because a lot of people like to kind of defer to like, oh, this isn't why my content is doing good. And it's because of, it's the content. Like I have bad news, but if your posts aren't doing well, it's probably because the content itself just sucks. Yeah. There's no...
Let's tell some hard truths. Let's get into it. Shout out to Brooke Bryant, by the way, the lovely Brooke Bryant, who was in that, who helped get that post together. She did she's one of our PR gals and associate account execs, and she did a wonderful job. She did really great. So shout out to BB in the house, man. She did awesome.
Yeah, we got to have her on the next episode. For sure.
She's really great, man. She's so awesome. We have so many great people that work here, man. Just really, really cool, smart people that are awesome.
But I mean, that's one too that we thought, we made it and we thought, I mean, we liked it. We put it out there and it did really well for what it is. And I believe it's because there's value in it. Yeah. I believe there's a lot of things. We did shoot it on the iPhone, which is kind of funny. We're talking about quality. It's good quality, but is it?
But listen, man, but here's the thing too. We talk a lot about. We can get into this part of it too. I think this is good. We need to talk about this. The perception of when you walk in somewhere and you tell somebody you're going to film something with your iPhone, because I'll tell you, I could take my 15 Pro, toss the Blackmagic app, pull the Blackmagic app up, get my settings where I need them to be, film an Apple log, film in ProRes, right? Dump it to an SSD, or just throw it in cinematic mode. And because we've taken the time to immerse ourselves in it, we know what the stuff needs to look like. So, but for things like that, to me, it's about breeding familiarity. So if people are used to seeing things that way and people are okay with their content appearing that way, and you're trying to shoot for that style, which we were, that was a very intentional decision on our part. Mm-hmm. That's where you strike the balance, because we can have the stuff where we film with multi-$1,000 cameras and lighting setups and everything, or we can just take our phones out, throw a wireless mic on, have somebody hold a wireless mic, throw a light on them just for an accent, and have them shoot that way and shoot it at 30 FPS like most people do on social, and throw that out. Yeah. But we can do both. But it just depends on what the situation calls for. Yeah. I think there's a balance. You have the really heavily produced stuff, and then you have the stuff you just do off the cuff, which is what people are used to seeing anyway. Yeah. They're used to seeing this stuff. They know people are filming with their phones, man. Yeah. They're not, I don't think people are overly concerned about that.
It's the only way you can kind of keep up, right? Yeah. Like you can't bring out one of these like No. Super expensive cameras to do just fast paced.
We were talking about this. Do you know how hard it is to throw that Canon R6 on a DJI Ronin, like on a gimbal?
Yeah.
It is a pain in the ass, man, to have to do that. Like, and people don't want to say that, but the reality is, like, it's not hard. It's just extra work. When really, I could just take a mobile gimbal, toss the iPhone or a small rig stabilizer, throw the iPhone on, and boom, we're off and running. Right.
But you also have to like take the media off of the camera.
Exactly.
In your computer. I mean, it's a whole process. I think a lot of people don't think about.
It's going to be a lot either way.
Yeah.
But I think from a run and gun type standpoint, especially for social content, if it's not the heavily produced stuff like this podcast, we're going to do it with our phones, man. That's the reality, because I guarantee, again, it goes back to the tools of the trade and what you know, right? So a scalpel in the hands of a child and a skilled surgeon are two different results. An iPhone in the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing, a seasoned mobile filmmaker versus somebody who doesn't know how to use a camera for that kind of stuff. You're going to get a different result.
But, at the end of the day, though, too, it really does. Like, I don't think people view it either way on, like, the viewers. It's like, oh, this is done on iPhone or this is done on a DSLR. It's really, they don't care. It's all about the content. Is it good? Does this bring something to me? Is this talking to me?
Does it provide value?
Does it provide value? I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's all that really matters.
It's funny. Cam Mackey, I mentioned Cam Mackey earlier when you should check out his stuff if you haven't seen him. He's really great. CAMMACKEY, Cam Mackey on YouTube. He's really awesome. He's kind of a hipster guy. He's out in California, mustache, wears trucker hats and hipster sunglasses and stuff, dresses like a hipster. Really cool dude, a really creative guy. He said at the end of his videos, he always says, hey man, hopefully you guys find this stuff great. I really hope it's helping you in your growth as a filmmaker or a photographer. There's some other resources you can check out. I mean, most people are like, if you want to hear about this, check out this video up in the left-hand corner. But he seems really adamant about it. I think he's for real too. Like, he seemed really genuine. Like, I really want this to help you guys, and I hope it does. Let me know in the comments what you think or what more you want to know. And I'll try to do some stuff to help however you think it's going to help you out. I think that's really cool. And I kind of feel that I want us to feel that way too, is like, hey, we're on the inside of this stuff, so we have insights that some people don't have, but maybe some people want to know. So a big part of this podcast and the people that we bring on to talk, a huge part of it is to educate the masses, man, to educate, to throw things out there that you guys may not be thinking about, or that can help you in your own journey and help you become the best creative or marketer that you possibly can be, or business owner, whatever the case may be. And that's part of our, because we have purpose in what we do too, man. We're not just doing this just to do it. It's fun to do. But there's a purpose behind it, right? Why we're choosing to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of things that we're talking about are the things that we're doing, right? Like, we both built this podcast studio, and, it's a pretty penny to get some of these cameras, right? But at the same time, like, these aren't the most expensive cameras.
No, they're
like,
not.
This is a great mic, but it's not the most expensive mic. Like, there's mics that are like 10 times.
We were pretty restrained. And when the way we put this together.
So I mean, and that's the thing. But this is half the battle. So it's like, hey, let's get what we need, and then let's focus on the content itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because, and get going, and then you can build it out from there.
Yeah.
Like, you guys see the black curtains and everything. This wasn't our first choice for like the backdrop. We were like, hey, let's just get going, then we can worry about the rest later. So you guys at some point down the line may end up seeing like a remodeled version of this studio. Even though it's a pretty sweet studio, we have reverb diffusion pads all over the walls on the other side that you probably can't see, but it's a pretty sweet little space, and we get really good. We do VOs in here, and it used to be our editing studio before we moved it out and became the podcast studio. So it's some fun stuff.
Hey, man. But that's a part of pivoting, right? It's like, looking at this and thinking like, oh man, this is we put all this money into this, and now we're doing, it's all about that. Like, hey, the industry's changing. We know that podcasting is where it's at, and so not only do we need to be doing it for our clients, but we also need to be doing that as well.
That's true.
So this is all about pivoting and just learning from what we've done.
We always say, like, no offense to our clients out there, because we love y'all, but we're our own best client.
Yes.
And I think the reason I like to say that is because I always try to convey this to the team too, is like, we're the guinea pig. We can try things with our own brand, right? We're like, you have a little bit more restriction with other brands that have limited marketing budgets, and you want to be good stewards of their media dollars. But in-house, and you want to be good about your own stuff too.
Right.
But you can take more chances trying things out to say, hey, let's try this out, because once we have a case study and a use case for the way we did it,
Yeah.
then we can try it with our clients and we can
Right.
say, hey, look what we've done for
I think
ourselves.
we can also speak more confidently too,
Oh,
because we're
100%.
doing it.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
Yeah. You got to have a testing ground for this stuff, man.
Yeah.
So doing it yourself or with the company that you're with is really the best way to do it. And I'll tell you, like, I normally don't do, I try not to do shameless plugs, but I will tell you that this is stuff we can help you out with. If you're looking to
Yeah.
get started and you need a good team that can help you get going, give us a shout, man. We're always down to talk,
Yeah.
grab a coffee, shoot the shit, talk about some stuff you're trying to do because we love this. We feel so fortunate and blessed to be able to come in and do this every day, man.
Right.
We get to do really cool stuff. And it's not like roofing in July or like laying train tracks for Union Pacific, you know what I mean, in Texas. We get to come in and be creative every day and come up with this great stuff and use the skills and knowledge we've been able to attain over the years to help somebody else. That's really the thing, right? That's the goal. That's really, to me, that's life.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, we could show up and not do any of this
I know.
and just charge clients. And, you know, if we were just really just trying to plug, but honestly, this is something that we're passionate about. And if we can solve that problem, you know, a lot of clients have that problem of like, you know, how much I want to put out content every day. I want to keep up. Well, how do we do that? You know, these are ways to do that. And so we're very passionate about that and we know these things work. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's just a big difference too. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day too, I mean, well, and that's, you know, that's something that's reflected across the whole agency too. Like everybody feels that way. Everybody just wants to do the best that they can for the clients and the people that we work with and each other. You know, we want to help each other. We have quite a few young people that work inside the agency that aren't quite where we are career wise, you know, where we've been at it a while, but our goal is to help them grow. Like they want a path forward and we want to help them however we can. So we really support each other internally. And that's one of the great things about this team. And we just want to continue to share with you guys, man. And speaking of, I feel like that's kind of a nice segue into letting people know that, hey, if you want to, you know, thanks for checking out the podcast. You know, if you're seeing this on social, go find the full length version on YouTube at The Point Group, youtube.com at The Point Group, and you can find our full episodes there. And just be sure to stay tapped in with us on social at The Point Group on IG and LinkedIn to kind of stick with us on some of this more short form content that we'll be pushing out as well. That are spin outs of these long form episodes. Yeah,
and leave some comments. You know, we mentioned in the past, but like, you know, we'll certainly answer them in the comment section, but also this could be future topics, you know, that we can actually kind of deep dive into.
100%. So. And we want to start those conversations with you guys. Also, I feel I would be remiss not to say, smash that like and subscribe button so you can tap in with us. I feel like such a content creator when I say that. Smash the like and subscribe button. That way you get notifications whenever new episodes pop up. We're going to be pushing some great stuff out. We'll have some great people that come through, people in the agency, but also we're going to have some surprise guests, people inside and outside the industry that can really help with their insights and just across a myriad of topics. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time, man. It's going to be good shit. So really excited, man. So, so again, this has been the West Point Podcast. For Raul, this is Nate, and we'll see you guys in the next one.